Welcome to Sex and Happiness with Laurie Handlers. Amazing sex and intimacy are just around the corner. While Laurie puts the finishing touches on her new book, Sex and Happiness Over 60, please enjoy this show. It's one of her favorites from the Sex and Happiness archives.
Have you ever noticed how some people can flirt? Like almost flirting as a way of life, while others cannot. Perhaps you can't. I don't know. If you're someone who has not been able to break the ice, you need to definitely stay tuned with today's show. My guest today is Robyn Vogel, and Robyn is a psychotherapist and a relationship coach. One of the things that I think Robyn does really well in her coaching, and one of the things that certainly caught my eye about her, is that she has workshops for people to learn how to flirt so they can stop being so uptight about it. So I called Robyn because I wanted her to talk to us about how flirting relates to us. And of course, I think that flirting's a pretty tantric subject. I think it's important even in the tantra world where people maybe find it easier to meet each other. Who knows? We're going to find out some more about that. Robyn, I am so happy to have you as my guest. You have something called Flirting with Heart. What is that?
What is that?
Could you flirt without your heart?
I don't think so. I hope not. Let's put it that way.
There are some people who can't help themselves. They just flirt in business. They flirt at the office. They flirt in a bar. They flirt at a party. They find people to flirt with. They just flirt.
Yeah.
So how would you define flirting, would you say?
Well, so I would define flirting, the straight answer is communication. And when you were just talking about how there's people that flirt all over the place, I was thinking about babies and children and how they flirt with everybody. You know, babies just flirt with everybody. It's just a very natural instinct because we're human beings, we're relational, and we want to make connections with other people. It's what keeps us alive, right? So,
well, you do. I certainly do. You could say that I'm a flirt.
You are a really good flirt, definitely. No doubt. Me too. That's why we're here. So I was thinking about how babies and, young children, typically are really, it's just their natural instinct to make connection. And then somewhere along the line, something happens here or there and things develop over time. And then, some of us find it, we can flirt with ease and communicate in that way with ease, and other people feel more inhibited, shy, scared, terror. Some women feel, terrified at the idea. But to explain flirting really simply, it's communication. It's about communicating and attraction. And so I'd like to start right there, that it's really about communication. And
hold on one second though, because you said women are terrified.
Oh.
Can't we include men in this? Because I know a lot of men who are terrified, even though they're supposed to make the first move.
Absolutely, I so agree with that. Yeah, it's funny. I said women because I mostly work with women these days, but yeah, men are always asking me actually if I could work with them and give them some coaching around flirting. And so yes, it's human, not male versus female. And the other thing I often remind women about is that men are, often, scared. And I think women, we can easily make this projection that the man should approach and the man feels comfortable, and, and it's just not true. It's not always true.
No, I think, I don't know. One of the schools of thought about this is that for men and women, there's something called the call and response. You probably know about this, where the woman puts out the call. Now, it could be a hormonal signal, like this. I saw something about genetics, and it said that when women were premenstrual or menstrual, they have a certain smell like butter. And that butter smell connects to the nostrils of various men in a club or something. But I'm speaking more of not the genetics, but like really, if I have an attraction to someone, there's a certain way that my body language, my eyes, the way I sit, the way I might glance or something, and that's like a call to a certain man, and it's almost like the species, that man responds. Is that, I mean, do you agree with that?
Well, I can agree with that, absolutely. But I also think that men are sometimes, feel inhibited, even if they hear the call.
Yes, they do.
Yeah. I just know that a lot of women I work with, they often feel they can't imagine that the man or a man feels as they do. They sort of have this projection that the men have it all together and they're all confident and, everything's fine and they're, they hear the call and they come running and they feel like they know what to say and know what to do. And I don't think it's true all the time. So I like to let women know that sometimes men are in the same boat there and it kind of puts their minds at ease.
So, okay, so I got it that it's communication, and I just mentioned a few things. I mean, I know when you're mentioning babies, like I know that I can flirt with babies because they make eye contact with me,
right.
And then I can do things that hold them. Like I can do things, but sometimes babies do things too that hold my attention. Like even if they're sitting in some big person's lap, and it seems like they're playing with their dad's ears or something, they look around from the other side and they're still looking at me, and we get into this whole flirting thing. Mm-hmm. Do you mean it like that, like the eyes?
Well, certainly eye contact is number one in terms of, initiating a connection. And also just so important in our society. Everyone, I don't know about where you are, but here in the Northeast, many people are walking down the street looking down, looking at their phones, and not looking at the human beings that are right in front of them, the beautiful human beings that are right in front of them. So eye contact is, one of the sort of basic requirements of flirting and initiating connection with anybody. So yes, that's definitely one thing. And smiling, of course, another basic strategy, but not always that easy. I mean, making eye contact and smiling can bring up a lot of fear sometimes. And, I often suggest to people that they practice doing that everywhere. Like they take a day or they take a couple hours on one given day and say, okay, I'm going to be out in the world and I'm going to smile and make eye contact at, most of the people that I see. It's a wonderful way to spread the love, by the way. And you'd be surprised. It's an edge for people in this culture, in this society these days. We're not used to it. We're used to, hooking up to an electronic and tuning out. But this is about tuning in.
I think you're so right. I love this. I love this approach. So, listen, I may seem like I've been a big flirt all my life, and I have been, but there's also been times when I've been really scared.
Yeah, me too.
There's been times when I go to a party or something, I feel like I'm the oldest person there, or I feel like I'm the least one who looks like a centerfold from Playboy or a model. And then I used to do this to myself, not so much anymore, but I would sit there and I would make eye contact, and it would seem like everybody would sort of breeze by me. And you've had that too?
Yeah, what I was relating to was sometimes I feel scared, if I go out and I see somebody I really feel like there's a connection and I want to initiate a connection. Yeah, I have to sometimes okay, Robyn, you can do it.
So you give yourself a little pep talk.
I give myself a little pep talk, gather up my courage and give myself a pep talk because, what I tell myself is also what I tell the people I work with. I mean, what's the worst thing that can happen? The guy looks at me and says, not so much. Okay, so I don't want to date that person anyway.
Right, of course not. That's like that thing, that line, he's just not into you.
Right,
I mean,
yeah.
That's how it begins. Why would you want to twist someone's arm to be with you? That's crazy. You want them to hurry up and so you can go next. You can
right. That's right. Exactly. Exactly. Don't waste your time.
Robyn, what would you say is the difference between flirting and seduction? Because I think it's part and parcel, so I don't know what you think.
Yeah, good question. It's a question that comes up, and I think making the distinction is actually really important. Because, so one thing that comes up for people when they're flirting is that, and I'm going to say for women, because maybe this comes up more for women than men, but sometimes women say to me, if I flirt, then the man is going to think that it's a direct invitation to his bed, basically.
Ooh, I've heard that. I have actually heard that from people.
Me too, yeah. A lot of people
so they don't
that.
start at all. They won't flirt at all because they feel like they're giving a message that they don't want to give.
Exactly. Yeah, so then they say, yeah, exactly. So they don't flirt at all. They hold themselves back, and they just don't engage in that way. And, gosh, such a miscommunication. So one thing, and I'll talk about that maybe in a little bit, is what to do about that. But let's make the distinction first between seduction and flirting.
Sure.
So seduction to me is when you're trying to get something. So there's an end goal, there's something you want, and you'll kind of do whatever it takes to get it. And that could, of course, that includes flirting. But it's flirting in a different way. It's flirting with like I want this now, and I'm going to have this, and I'm going to do anything. I'm going to manipulate, et cetera, to get what I want. And that's not flirting. That's seduction. Flirting is communicating an attraction. I'm interested in you. I'd like to, get to know you. I'd like to have a conversation. Let's start there. Let's get present with that. So I think it's really, really important to make that distinction between the two.
And so you would say, so when you say that, it's because there is a place for seduction. I mean, there is a place for seduction, but you're talking about the kind of thing that can be really manipulative, like someone who's flirting because they want, I mean, I don't even know if I'm dating myself here, but someone who's flirting because they want a group of men at the bar or a man at the bar to buy them the next drink to start with.
Yeah.
Or flirting because I want to see, somebody wants to see how rich these guys are, or I'm talking about a heterosexuality right now, but I'm sure it happens.
Right, it happens.
I'm sure it happens.
Sure,
with people who aren't straight as well, and all too, even maybe in more pronounced ways. So you're distinguishing that flirting is really just to get to know, just to even see if there's any more to get to know. Like, do I like this person in the flirt enough to want to talk to him or her more?
Right. Yeah.
But what about these people who are like just their habitual flirts? They just flirt with everybody. I mean. Yeah.
Well, it's a good practice, and yes, it can be confusing. I think that some people find that confusing. I know people find that confusing. And
so if you were in relationship, for example, if you were in relationship with someone and all of a sudden I came up and I can't help myself, like I'm just always flirting, and I start to flirt with your intimate relationship with almost no regard for you, and it's just the way I am. I mean, that wouldn't be, I mean, I'm sure it's happened to you. It's happened to me. It doesn't feel so good.
Right. It's an interesting distinction you made. Like you're let's say, so you're coming up to me and somebody that I'm in a relationship with, and you decide to flirt, purely hypothetically, of course, Laurie. You decide to flirt. You decide to flirt with the person I'm in a relationship with, but you don't flirt with me. See, if you're flirting with me and the person I'm in a relationship with, then great, then it's, fun and friendly, and we're all getting connected.
I knew you were going to say that. But I think that's the perfect answer. If I were to make, it's not like I got to judge everything that's happening here, and every statement that you make, but
right.
If I would say to you, Robyn, I think that's the perfect answer. If I'm going to be a flirt, I might as well flirt with everybody, because that's how I find out if I even, and maybe I am flirting with everybody. That's how I find out if I even want to talk to you or him or her more.
Right, exactly, yeah. But the situation that you brought forward is a really common one, and I think the sad thing is that it doesn't often happen in that way, And then there is that discomfort and for some women feelings of competition and just feeling excluded. That's what it comes down to. Really, is feeling excluded.
Exactly, and I think what we're talking about is flirting with heart.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
like actually having consideration for all the people around, like not just going for, again, not just going for the goal or the seduction of a particular person. You know, I got to tell you something. This just brought up. I was recently at another radio station. The people that I'm with in Arizona have a radio show, and the radio station had a mixer so that all the hosts there could get to know each other. And my group of people, I don't know if you know this or not, but my group of people my community we're into physical immortality. And so we were there and we were kind of flirting with everybody there. You know, we're into physical immortality. Do you want to find out more about? And a man came in who the four of us who were there doing the show that night recognized had been at one of our meetings. So I started to talk to him, like, to beat the band about physical immortality and when was he coming back, and yes, we recognized him, and actually he'd been there more than once, and all of a sudden a woman who worked at that station came around the corner, and he clearly was there to see her, and when she came around the corner, like, he stopped talking and looked down. And I was standing there with two of my colleagues, and there was nothing. It was silence. And I really liked this woman. I had met her earlier in the evening, and I really liked her. We had exchanged cards, you know, and I was going to call her about some business and stuff. And then he and I were talking, and it was like, caught. But I was flirting about physical immortality. You know, I wasn't flirting, you know. So yeah. I called her the next day, and I said, hi, I want you to know that all of a sudden there was silence when you came around the corner of that part of the station, and I want you to know that I don't know what your relationship is with that man. He's a very nice man. I met him once before, and I wasn't flirting with him. And she was so happy that I called, even though that wasn't there. But I just wanted to clean that up between two women.
Great. Yeah, good for you. That's so important. Wow. Yay, Laurie.
Sure. It felt like high school. Like
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's so important to communicate and have that clarity between, well, I don't know. It comes up a lot between women, and I think it's so important to honor the women, the sister relationship. You know, even if it's not a close, you know, friend, but a woman in your community or a woman you're going to, you know, be in community with.
Exactly. It was just, to me, it was just, I had to do it. Because I didn't want anything to stand in the way of me seeing her again and being connected to her. And certainly I wanted him to come back to our community and visit again, but, you know, I didn't, like, not at the cost of feeling like high school, like, oh, I shouldn't have been flirting with this guy.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, it was high energy. It looked like the flirt, you know.
Yeah.
So what do you recommend? Like, okay, so if women are shy and they say they can't flirt, and you're saying to them that they should practice walking around, making eye contact, and smiling, then what?
Then what? Well, depends where they are, of course. So then what? So a lot of times I'll ask people, you know, the first question I ask is, do you want to be in a relationship? Is that why you're here? Is that why we're having this conversation? And often, you know, all the time, yes. All the time they say, yes, I do. But when we dig deeper and we start to, you know, really imagine what that would be like, sometimes fears come up. And those fears are obstacles. So sometimes a person will say, I'm feeling really shy. I'm a shy person. I just can't put myself out there. And I know that, you know, that's often the case. And so practice is one part of it. It's like, you know, putting yourself out there and practicing in the real world. And then the other part is really looking at what the fear, because shyness is inhibition, and inhibition, if we trace it back, we could say there's a fear there, most likely. So what are the fears? You know, what are the obstacles? What's been going on in that person's life thus far that created those fears and obstacles? So that's when we'll do some deeper exploration. So what I'm saying is sometimes people think they're ready until they really take a deeper look, and then they say, well, not so ready. I thought I was ready, but now I see that there's all these things that actually I'm not really quite ready for, So it's really, really important, because I often hear people say, their just blanket assumption, their blanket statement is, yes, I want to be in a relationship. And I say, really? And then when we start to talk about it some more, we can see that it's not that clear cut.
I know you have a coaching program. I know that you have people for individual, I don't know if you call it therapy or individual coaching. I think people have gotten away from therapy, so I don't know what you call it, but I know that you have some modalities that you use, and that's what I'm most interested in finding out, because people who seek help need to know everything that's available for them.
Yeah, so I do. I work with individuals and groups, and I'm just love the work so much. What I love about combining psychotherapy and coaching, just to mention that in this moment, is that psychotherapy goes back, in a very simple way. Psychotherapy goes back, and we look at, what has brought you to this moment now today, what's informed your life that's affected you in various ways that are important to know about. Why do I make certain decisions? Why am I repeating a pattern? Those are really good questions to ask, because those things, in my experience, can be healed, and you can make really positive changes in very profound ways. And then coaching looks forward, so where do I want to go from this point? Where am I moving, in what direction am I moving? Where do I want to go to? And so I love the idea of combining both of them. And I wouldn't say psychotherapy is outdated. Coaching is definitely popular these days. But I find, my practice is really, really booming. Very happy to report that. And I just love the way, I have this image of someone standing right in the present moment and breathing and being, really present with their breath and really connected to their body, and being able to look left to what has happened in their past, and to look right and envision what's going to happen in their future.
That is so well put. I really thank you for that. I would never have drawn that distinction in that way, and I just think that's so perfect. The past and the future, and standing in the present moment. That's so great. Yeah. So some of the things that you've talked about, using, like EMDR, what does that really mean, and how would you use that? I've had an EMDR session myself.
Yeah.
I found it very helpful. I can't remember why I had it.
I'm not going to ask you.
Oh, that's probably a good thing. Probably it corrected whatever I went there for, and I can't even remember what the trauma was or whatever.
That's perfect. That describes EMDR in a nutshell.
What does EMDR stand for, and how do you use it?
Yeah, so it's a mouthful, but I'm going to say it anyway. It stands for eye movement, desensitization, and reprocessing. So we try never to say that. We try just to say EMDR. Anyway, it's a really powerful tool, and it was discovered by Francine Shapiro in the 80s. And it's one of those things that's slightly hard to describe, but I will say that it's a process of identifying an obstacle or a fear or an anxiety, something that's going on in the moment, in the present, and then tracing it back to its original roots. So that's one of the first and very important steps when you're doing an EMDR session, is to, okay, I've identified something that's in my way of creating more love in my life. And as I speak with the person on the telephone or in person in my office, to collect lots of information on what that looks like and what that feels like, and what the person believes in the moment that relate to that particular obstacle. And then let's trace it back as far as we can go to where those initial beliefs were actually established. So EMDR was actually, when people first started using EMDR, they used it for major traumas. so really significant traumas. And in the EMDR world, we say, like, big traumas, big T traumas, and then EMDR also works for little t traumas. And I would say that even beyond that, anything that's happened that's created something in the present that's disturbing, that's difficult, challenging, that's in the way, we can use EMDR to clear it. So the first thing is to go back and look, where did this come from? And then we have a body technique, which they used to use eye movements, looking left, right, left, right, left, right.
My session was with left, right, left, right, left, right,
yes.
very fast, back and forth, eye movements.
Yes, and some people do still use that, absolutely, and it's a wonderful, it's perfect. It's a perfect way to use it. And there are other, what we call bilateral stimulation, so left, right, left, right. There are other ways to do it. So one of the ways that I do it is by tapping on the body. And so if you were sitting in front of me, Laurie, and we were doing a session together, I'd be sitting directly in front of you, and I'd have one hand on each of your right, like around your knees, likely, and I would tap left, right, left, right, left, right. And you don't have to look left, right, therefore. You can just keep your eyes closed and focus on yourself. And that's actually why that's why I use the tapping, because it enables the person to just really go inside and stay connected to themselves, and they can do it. Talk about resource tapping, which is related. We can talk about that in a few minutes, but they can do the tapping themselves. So we don't
talking. I mean, I remember I was talking.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking about the incident, or I was talking about something.
Right.
When I was doing the eye movement, the rapid eye movement, back, forth, left, right.
Yes.
When you're tapping the person right, left on their knees or whatever, are they talking?
Yeah, they might be. They might not be. I mean, if they want to be, let's put it that way. I mean, there's certainly times, in the session where we'll pause and say, okay, what's happening now? And we'll, have a conversation and get more information and continue from there. So a lot of it is an internal journey and then coming out to, have conversation. And so what happens is the initial event that created this pattern in the body and mind and spirit over the, course of however many years gets reprocessed in the body and the mind and the spirit, actually. And the person gets to see, oh, hey, that wasn't really about me. I didn't need to take that on. Or, oh, I believed that as a child, but that wasn't really right. Actually, I am an amazingly loving person. It's amazing how, and maybe this was your experience, this has been my experience when I use EMDR for myself, it's amazing how my clients and I had the same experience of coming around to, like, realizing, wow, I can't believe I held on to that for so long, and what actually isn't true, what I thought I believed to be true when I was 3 years old, now that...
Well, I'm sitting here, I'm trying to make my eyes go right and left.
Don't do it.
I'm trying to recreate.
Don't try this at home.
I'm trying to recreate whatever it was I went for that session. But I know that I'm sure that you remember in my workshop, in my Bliss workshop, I used yoga boxing, which is a bilateral brain stimulation where I have people punch out one hand like a stop sign, like an open fist, like a stop sign, one word at a time, and say sentences to each other. And often I work with couples, and I have one partner be the receiver and the other partner punch out each word to the partner and then stop at whatever the natural place is. And then I have the partner respond, and the partner might not even be responding to the sentence that the first partner just said. It almost doesn't matter. It's like they're getting out their own traumatizing experience either in the relationship or something that happened before, but that happens to be getting re-triggered in current time, and they work it out like so fast.
Yeah, because what happens is when things have been painful or traumatic, the brain will actually, certain areas of the brain will shut down. And that's why often people get really stuck, we all do, when traumatic things have happened. It's like we get stuck in the past. It's because literally in the brain there are places that shut down. And so with any bilateral, including the yoga boxing, because anything, right, you're walking and moving, anything that's bilateral back and forth, opens up, helps to open up different parts of the brain. And so, yeah, to your point, things move really quickly because it's working not only on the mind, but it's also working in the body. So, things can move more quickly.
Well, that right there is the tantric connection. It's so important I can't say it enough. I say it every day. I say it in every class. I say it on every show. It's so important to work the body. It's so important to work the body. It's so important to work the body. It's like if we're not working the body and we're only working the mind, then only a certain set of things happens. Only a certain set of synapses happen in the brain. It can't get fully clean. It can't get fully processed and let go of unless the body's involved, unless the cellular memory is tapped somehow. So,
yeah, absolutely.
I can't stress it enough, and I imagine you're the same way. I mean, if you're not working the body, it happened to a body,
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, even when people are naming affirmations or reclaiming something for themselves, like we have to move our body in order to really get it. We have to stand up, change seats, move around, raise our arms, whatever it is, to get the body involved. To get every cell in the body to get the information.
That's so good. I know that there are these meetup groups. I stumbled upon one in Arizona where they go out together as a group of men and women, and then to help people get over the stigma of flirting or the initial approach to someone that they're attracted to, they send someone from the group over. Have you ever?
Yes, yes, absolutely. I've done it. I've actually done it with some of my clients. It's really fun. It's fun for me.
So that's posse. The posse goes out, and someone from the posse goes out and rounds up. Somebody's prospective mate.
Yeah, first of all, I run 2 meetup groups. I have one in New York and one in Boston, and that's one of the things that we do together is get a group together, like you said, a posse, and go out. And people feel, there's so much benefit to doing this work in community. I always encourage people to find a buddy or find a group of people that they can go out with and feel comfortable with, and so women go out together or men go out together, and then they have the support of everybody, and they can, throw ideas off of each other, and they can feel, shored up and courageous because they have this group of support behind them. And, one person can initiate a conversation and call the friends over, and it's great and fun.
So it really is like the whole buddy system that people had probably when they were little kids in camp, and they now get a chance to use it as an adult in the grown-up world, being able to possibly meet the love of their life. I think it sounds fantastic.
Yeah, it's a great way to do it. I think it's
so. What about? This is good too. Here's another thing it's so new. I age myself. When I flirt, I usually hand somebody my business card, or I ask for their card, or I might write my number down on a napkin or a piece of paper, a bar napkin, or somebody else might. But the younger people, they just take out their phone.
Yes, they do the bump with their iPhones.
That, the first time that happened for me, I thought it was so hot. You
ran right out and got an iPhone.
That was such a turn on. To have somebody pull their phone out and say, okay, give me the number, or give me your number, I'll call you right now, and then we'll have each other's number. That had never happened to me before, and it was like, oh, so cute. It was really cute. I just had to mention that. These days I notice that people go out with everything hanging out. And by the way, I'm not a prude. I'm sure my listeners know I'm not a prude. I'm not. But for me, it's like, again, in the flirting, if I'm flirting with everything hanging out, and then I get upset that a man looks at me and he's just looking at my body parts, it's kind of like I called for that.
Right.
So, I mean, so I like the fact that you have an image consultant coming out with this because, hopefully she's not going to let anybody go out with all their meat hanging out on the rack. You know what I mean? It's just, I just think it's the wrong message. It is like a seduction for something. And then I've seen my friends get mad when someone didn't even look in their eyes, just looked at their tits.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, and I think to your point, it's like being conscious about what we want to project out into the world. That's the key, right?
Right. And
what message we're communicating, and is it conscious?
We're kind of winding down here. I need to ask you one other question. When someone is flirting with you and you don't want to flirt back, what's a sweet way to let that person move on?
Well, that's a really good question. So I'm going to bring it to when you're with somebody, face to face, and you're having a conversation and they're expressing interest or they want the conversation to keep going. I always encourage people to start with an appreciation and then state what's true for you. So a genuine appreciation from the heart, right? We're flirting with heart. So we're saying connected to ourselves, connected to our bodies, what's true for me in my heart in this moment that I can appreciate about this person that I'm in conversation with.
Okay.
99% of the time you can find one thing. So you say, thank you very much. I really appreciated how much energy you had when you talked about your work. It's really inspiring to hear somebody who's so enthusiastic about their work. And in this moment, I'm, wanting to go make some, conversation with some other people or go meet, a couple more people at this gathering and, thank you so much.
And walk away.
Time to walk away, yeah.
Great.
But I think, the idea is to, and this is part of flirting, is to, the goal is to have both people feel good before, you step away.
Robyn, thank you so much for being my guest today. It's been my pleasure having you.
You're welcome, Laurie. A lot of fun to be on the show.
Wonderful, wonderful. I'm saying goodbye for now. Namaste. This is Laurie Handler signing off.